Today in the bunker, we're going to talk about a series of tubes. Been doing some experimenting lately. One of the more popular things to use in building, especially for Necromunda terrain, are these Pringles cans, or things that are like Pringles cans. In this case, it's actually a Pringles can. And someone has suggested on one of the many internet forums that this is so ubiquitous that it should be considered a standard template construct item for those of you familiar with that bit of lore. But the problem when you just paint this is you still have that spiral, and it just kind of screams, hey, you used a Pringles tube. So recently, was watching Eric's Hobby Workshop, and he's got a fantastic channel, and he took a paper sealing tape and used that to cover up cardboard tubes. In this case, or in that case, excuse me. In that case, it was the tubing out of an aluminum foil pack, which this is fantastic just on its own because it's thicker, it's more durable, it's a little more to scale for most things you want to use it for. So I tried to go get some of this paper tape, and the closest I could find was this stuff. I got it at Staples, but it's kind of slick. It sticks fairly well, and I've done some here, and I learned a couple of things. The main one being when you put this stuff down, start at the bottom, start at the top, and then you're going to have an overlap at some point, unless you want to try and cut one of these narrower and do that, but that's a lot of cutting. But then when you apply it, I would alternate your seams, and it kind of gives you that sort of, you know, it's made out of pieces of metal look. The downside is this stuff is kind of slick, and not like, you know, hey, it's really cool, but it's very slick to the touch, which means that when you put Mod Podge or Mod Podge and paint on it, it just beads up. It does stick, but it beads up, and I don't really like the way it acts. It might make for a neat rust effect, but overall, I don't think it makes a very good bond. So what I ended up doing was spray painting it black first, allowing that to completely dry. Then I hit it with the Mod Podge over the paint, and that makes kind of a hard candy shell. It's still, before you put the Mod Podge on, that paint can scrape off of there fairly easily. Here's a couple of places where you can see that's happened, because even the paint doesn't bond very well to that slick paper. But once you get the Mod Podge on there, it's pretty durable. And then go over once the Mod Podge is dry, I went over that with some black and some gray as kind of a base coat to work up from. The other thing that I found was a package of this plastic canvas. It comes in rounds, and if you take one of the rounds and cut off the very outer edge, if you cut that about halfway on the little legs there, it fits pretty much perfectly in there. And especially once you have that base coated, then you can take the granny grading and you can coat this in Mod Podge, let that dry, paint it, and then you can super glue that whole thing down, and it should stay fairly well because it's protected all the way around. Nothing can kind of get up against it and grab it to pry it off. So that should make a fairly decent bond, or as decent a bond as you can make using granny grading. Some of the other things, and these are nice too because you can cut out, if you're going to add pipes or an access hatch or whatever, you can very easily cut that out. So put that together. One of the other things I've been working with, this tubing is great, but far more easy to get paper towel roll or toilet paper or bog roll, which is much thinner. So I've been experimenting with expanding foam. And if you can get it to fill correctly, it's very, very sturdy. The problem is when it doesn't fill correctly and you end up with voids, then it sucks it down. So that's going to take some more experimentation to get that method correct. I did do some on some various size cans. I got a little sloppy there, because we want to make some storage tanks and whatnot. And again, these are kind of ubiquitous, but they're very fragile. If you fill them correctly with the foam, they're very, very durable. They won't just crush immediately. Then you're left with having to cover the ends, which are very unmistakable. And in this case, I've started messing with some 3D printed pieces I found on Thingiverse. And I'm not 100% sure that they're going to work, so once I get that worked out, then I will add the links to the actual pieces I end up using. But at least that piece right there gives a pretty decent fit. There were a bunch of pieces in this set I haven't tried yet. So again, further experimentation. And the same thing applies if you don't get it in there correctly, and it's kind of tough to get in these because you spray it, you have to kind of tap it and tamp it down, and if you don't, then you end up with that void and it just sucks in. So that might be useful for something that's destroyed, but it was kind of annoying to come back and find that. This stuff takes about 8 hours to cure, so I did it outside. I left it outside to cure. Most of these came out great. Like I said, they're very durable, and they will work fantastic, especially once I get the pieces worked out for the ends. So that's what I've been up to. I apologize, I haven't put out much lately. Between work and some other stuff, it's just been kind of crazy. So got more content coming. Got a whole bunch of new folks that have subscribed, and I appreciate that. I appreciate my subscribers that have been with me from the start and everybody that's jumped in since then. So you guys are awesome. I'm going to try to continue to keep a channel going that is worthy of your subscription and your support. So I thank you. I hope this was at least a little bit helpful, kind of give you a taste of what's coming up, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.